Nashua, New Hampshire, a once sprawling metropolis leveled by a cataclysmic nuclear plant explosion, leaving nothing behind but arid wasteland and chemical debris. The event, circa 1988, caused the federal government to downgrade the land to a census designated place. Key figures attempted many things to bring the city back to its former glory, but nothing worked. That's until Mayor Jim Donchis came up with a plan: center the area's economy around a card game called poker. By leveraging its close proximity to Wales and Boston, Massachusetts, Nashua quickly became the poker hotspot of New England and gained the nickname Nash Vegas. Today, we will be helping the rebuild efforts by playing 1-3 no-limit Texas Hold'em at Nashua's very own Boston Billiards Club and Casino. We buy in for the max of 500 and play begins three-handed. One of the other players is actually GTO Jay, my friend and wannabe coach. About 10 minutes in, I pick up my first playable hand, King Queen offsuit on the button. I open to $10, Jay in the small blind calls, and the big blind comes along as well. Three ways to a good-looking flop: Queen, 10, 4, 2 spades. Action checks to me, and I go for a bet of $20. I want to protect my top pair against straight and flush draws, and I'm going to have the best hand 99% of the time here. Jay quickly folds, but the big blind makes the call. Heads up to a safe-looking turn, the 3 of hearts. The big blind checks, and I go for another bet, this time $45. Then, something unexpected happens. The big blind check raises to $125. I go into the tank. What could he ever have here? A straight or flush draw that he decided to check raise the turn and not the flop with? Did he turn a set? You would think pocket threes would fold to my flop bet. Maybe he has queen 10 and decided to spring the trap now instead of on the flop. Generally confused by this maneuver, I decide to just make the call and evaluate a river. It comes the jack of spades, probably the worst card in the deck, as just about every draw gets there. I expect the small blind to jam for about $300. I can just fold and chalk it up to a bad river card. But then something interesting happens. He checks. He'd never do this with a rivered flush or straight after check raising the turn. So I think about turning my hand into a bluff. I block some straights with my king, but don't have a spade, so that kind of evens things out. But then I think to myself, GTO Jason, you have top pair good kicker. You don't need to turn a hand with this much showdown value into a bluff, you idiot. I check, and the small blind turns over 10-3 offsuit for a turn 2 pair. Pretty standard stuff at the beginning of this session. I guess if you drive a while to play poker, you're not going to fold pre-flop, especially short-handed. So, nice hand, sir.
I'll mess around and heads up.
The game's still short-handed. GTO J wants to go play some PLO, so talks of an epic heads-up match ensue. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen, as Jay sticks around at the 1-3 table. Anyway, I open to $10 with Jack 8 of hearts on the button. Jay folds, and the big blind 3-bets to $40. I have a hand that plays well post-flop. I decide to make the speculative call. In the flop comes ace, queen, jack, 2 hearts. I flop bottom pair along with the jack high flush draw. The big blind checks. I have a good hand. I go for a bet of $40. The big blind calls, and we're off to a turn, which is the 9 of spades. The big blind checks, I check, hoping to realize my equity on the river. And we do, when the river peels off the 10 of hearts. Better yet, the big blind now leads out for $100. Man, really tough spot here. Don't know what I'm gonna do. Psych, I jam and put the big blind into an eternal tank. He starts asking me all the stupid poker tell questions like, "Oh, what do you think I have?" and "Do you want me to call?" This behavior is incredibly annoying. If you do this, you're a douchebag, no offense. Eventually he folds pocket kings for Broadway, which I think is just a ridiculous fold. Like, how do I not get paid off here? To make matters worse, this guy stacks off with ace jack on a jack 5-3 board after someone 3-bet jams. Newsflash, buddy, he flopped a set. There wasn't even a flush draw. Like, what else could he possibly be jamming on that flop, dude? Top pair's good enough to stack off on, but not Broadway. Makes sense.
So I do every time.
Great news. Double board bomb pot time. Straight to 2 flops, which come king 4-5 on the top and 9-7 deuce on the bottom. I peel 7-6 offsuit, so I flop an open ender on the top and middle pair on the bottom. I'm in middle position, action checks to me, and I go for a bet of $55. Folds around to the player on my right, and he makes a call. The turn on the top board is another 4, and the turn on the bottom is a jack. Obviously not ideal, so when under the gun 1 checks, I check it back. The top river comes a beautiful 8 of clubs, and the bottom river comes another jack. The play to my right jams for like $300. The only hands that beat me on both boards are pocket 8s and pocket kings, so I make the call. He flips over 8-9 for a pair on both boards, and I show my straight, and we're going to chop this one up. Next significant hand, I'm in middle position, and I peel ace-4 of clubs. I open for $15. Action folds to Jay on the button, and he makes it 60. This is the 3rd or 4th time he's 3-bet my open. So at this point, I know he's doing it light. There's an old saying in poker, friends don't 3-bet friends light. This rule of thumb doesn't apply to Jay, he's a horrible friend. There's a derivative of that saying. If your friend 3-bets you light, 4-bet them lighter. Action folds to me, and I 4-ball him up to $150. He thinks for a bit, and at this point, if he 5-bets me, I'm going to jam in his face. It doesn't come to that, he ends up folding, and my manhood is gloriously restored. I show the 4 of clubs and get his live reaction. He may look unfazed on the outside, but I assure you, he cried himself to sleep.
I'll play your face, don't worry.
This next hand, I'm in middle position, and I open king 7 of diamonds to $15. Everybody except for the small blind folds. Here's a GTO tip for you guys. Eliminate all calling out of the small blind. Your only 2 options now are 3-bet or fold. Think about it. In the small blind, you're automatically at a positional disadvantage. When you just make the flat call, you're now also at a range disadvantage. That's a double disadvantage you don't want in your game. This guy's been here for like 45 minutes and has already called in the small blind like 3 or 4 times, so I know he's a massive fish. If I'm ever playing with one of you guys and I see you just calling in the small blind, I'm going to make fun of you on the vlog, okay? That's a promise. Anyway, we're off to a flop, which comes 10-8-3 with 1 diamond. The small blind checks, and since I'm in position, I check back. See that? Being in position equals free cards. That free card, the king of clubs. Easy poker, ladies and gentlemen. The small blind checks, and I bet $10, targeting 10x, 8x, all that stuff. He calls, and we're off to a river, which is the king of spades. He checks. He only has about $105 left after getting coolered 1 hand prior. I won't runner trips, so gonna be hard to put me on a king. Maybe, I don't know. He's probably tilted, doesn't want to get bluffed. I'm all in. 2x over bet jam. I'm all in, pal. He goes in the tank for a while. And eventually he's like, if you have the king, I'm just going home. I call. Well, sir, on your bike, I flip over the king and he goes home. If he 3-bet that hand like he's supposed to, I either fold pre-flop or fold to his c-bet. But since he just called, he loses. Simple as that. Time for another double board bomb pot. The top board comes 10-9-4 2 diamonds, and the bottom board comes ace 8-10 rainbow. Action checks to me in middle position, and I peel ace 8 offsuit. With top and bottom pair on the bottom, and some backdoor opportunities on the top, I make it $50. Only the button calls, and we're off to 2 turns, which come another 10 on the top and a king on the bottom. I decide to check, pot control a little bit, considering I have nothing going on the top board. Still feeling pretty good about my hand, so when the button bets $125, I make a pretty easy call. The rivers come a 9 on the top and a 7 on the bottom. I check, and the button jams for $325. This would really suck if he had a set on the bottom board, or even like ace king. But in game, it seemed like he just had a 10, so I make the call. He flips over 10 deuce for trips on the top and a pair on the bottom. I'm not gonna lie, this hand could have gone horribly wrong. I've kind of been on a heater with bomb pots, taking them down left and right, so I think I need to tighten up because I could have very easily gone stacked.
Nice hand.
Final interesting hand of the session. I'm on the button and I peel pocket kings. I don't know. I think pocket kings might look better than pocket aces because of all the paint you get on the cards. It's just an amazing sight to see. Discuss in the comments. Anyway, there's an early position limper, so I raise to $18. The big blind calls, and the limper does as well. Off to an amazing flop of ace, king, 5, 2 spades. Action checks to me, and I bet out for $25. The big blind then jams for 600. I actually just made that all up. The real flop came ace, queen, 8 with 2 hearts. The big blind let out for $25, and I just folded face up. Pocket kings and aces have not been treating me very well recently, so hopefully that'll turn around. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Sorry for the shorter video. The session, pretty spot dead. Not too many crazy things happened. Feature comment down below. And yeah, I was in for 500, out for 550, so a huge profit of $50. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week.